You want to move over this way?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
That's like a behind you there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, first of all, I applaud Paul Ryan for his courage and his leadership in actually having a plan. President Obama doesn't, the Democrats in Congress don't either. So let's first acknowledge and applaud Paul Ryan's courage and his leadership. Two is I'll have my own plan, which will have some similarities in the Medicare to Congressman Ryan's, but it'll have some differences as well. That'll be out shortly. But three, if that was the only bill that came to my desk and I wasn't able to pass my own plan, I would sign his bill.
Is it the voucher part of it that gives you pause?
No, we just have some other ideas that we think we can add to it that would make the package even better. And so,
an example.
Sure. Well, we will do that. How are you?
Sorry.
I'm
back here in the corner.
The approach that we have will have a number of features and some similarities to Congressman Ryan's. One would be something called payment reform, where we incentivize consumers to get to the highest quality providers and most efficient, try to get more information in their hands. Two, give them financial incentives to get to higher quality care. It will also have a series of options that they can choose from in our plan. This will all be spelled out in that press conference that you'll come to. But just to reiterate, number one, I think Paul should be applauded. I really like his courage and his leadership of he's getting a plan out there. Two is I like the general direction of his plan. Three is to the Medicare part of it, we'll have our own plan and we'll have some differences, but if his plan came to my desk and I was able to have my own plan, I would say.
And finally, would you say you're on the same page as Mitt Romney when he says, I would repeal Obamacare, but I'd let the states do what they want to do?
Well, I can't say I'm on the same page with the people because they've got their own record on health care and their own approach to health care. I can just tell you what I would do rather than connecting it to somebody else. In my view, I think Obamacare, the approach of individual mandates and centralization of health care in this country is a horribly bad idea. We want to have health care reform, but it needs to give people the power and the incentives to be in charge of their health care, to choose their own doctor, to have them be in the driver's seat, not the government. So I just have a very different view of this than President Obama.
Governor, in your budget in Minnesota, you use significant amounts of federal stimulus money, and there are companies all over New Hampshire, like this company, that receives stimulus money. Given that, how do you maintain your opposition to the federal stimulus money?
Well, the federal stimulus money was used by lots of government entities, businesses, and the like, and the real question is, did it work? And we have an economy that has not recovered substantially. We've got people who are experiencing unbearable levels of unemployment, and it hasn't really worked. And so it's maybe had a little temporary effect, but it comes with big negative consequences down the road. That sets a really bad precedent.
So is Minnesota wrong in using that money to balance the budget?
Well, with respect to Minnesota, we're a huge subsidizer of the rest of the nation, the federal government. According to the Tax Foundation, for every dollar we send to Washington, we get 72 cents back. So I think we're under that study the fifth or sixth biggest payer or subsidizer of the federal government and the rest of the nation. So Minnesota's not a net taker, they're a net contributor to the federal government. So anybody who says we're not paying our fair share or somehow President Obama has bailed us out, what you need to look at is we're actually subsidizing the rest of the country.
You seem to have a number of state-specific tough truths you were talking about delivering, be it in New York, Florida, Iowa. I didn't hear anything that sounded particularly New Hampshire today. Do you have a tough truth you'd like to deliver to people?
Well, you know, these issues that we've been addressing have national impact. They're not limited to just one state. You know, ethanol, of course, is beyond just Iowa. Ethanol in Minnesota and other states as well. And, of course, the financial services industry is centered in Wall Street, but its implications and presence transcends the whole country. Of course, Social Security the same way. So I don't think it would be fair to say it's state-specific.
Well, I mean, you basically pitched this by saying, I went to Iowa, I said X, I went to Florida, I said Y, I'm going to New York next week,
yeah,
I
but
went to
just
D.C.
because I'm standing in a particular location doesn't mean issues don't have national impact.
Okay, so I'm just curious. So you don't have anything that is a particularly bit of truth-telling for New Hampshire?
That's unique to New Hampshire today, no.
Governor, Democrats are circulating emails saying that this is day 4 of you ducking and dodging whether you'll support the Ryan's budget plan, saying that you're billing yourself
before you came.
Billing yourself as a truth teller. Can you just respond to that specific charge?
I did. You were late for the part where I answered that. If you were here on time, I would have.
Right. Your press person told me that you'd be over there. What was your response to that? CNN.
Yeah. I'll do it again for you. Sorry.
Appreciate it.
First of all, I applaud Congressman Ryan for his courage and his leadership in putting his plan forward. At least he has a plan. President Obama doesn't have a plan. The Democrats don't have a plan, and I really applaud his leadership and his courage in putting a plan on the table. Number two, we'll have our own plan. It'll have many similarities to Congressman Ryan's plans, but it'll have some differences. One of which will be we'll address Social Security. He chose not to. We are addressing Social Security. And the Medicare part of our plan will have some differences too. He'll have some similarities also. So we'll have our own plan. But if I can't have my own plan, as president, I'll have my own plan. If I can't have that and the bill came to my desk and I had to choose between signing or not Congressman Ryan's plan, of course I'd sign it.
You had some strong feelings about right to work, which is some legislation that's going on right here in New Hampshire now. But nationally, how do you feel the two are partnered? As far as the trade unions and having to pay non-union members having to pay dues.
Well, you said ask how I was partnered.
How do you feel about that? As you mentioned New Hampshire, but you had strong feelings.
Oh, same national. It's the same issue.
Well, I mean, do you think federal law should be changed? Because I mean, you characterize it as being a member of a union or something to that extent, whereas people on the other side would say, well, this is just charging the share of collective bargaining to defray services that unions are required to perform for non-members. So
I think in the United States of America, people shouldn't be forced to join any organization against their will.
Governor Barney Frank, you talked about good deals during your remarks today. Barney Frank told the Boston Herald yesterday that he had actually gotten his companion a job, a high-paying Washington job in the 1990s. He also said that this is very common for members of Congress in Washington to get their spouses and family members jobs. What can you say about that? Do you think that says something about the overall culture of Washington right now?
I didn't see the story about Congressman Frank, so I can't respond to that directly. But one of the messages that we're trying to get across the country, more broadly than just any individual, is there is this alliance between big government, big unions, and certain big bailout businesses, and they take care of each other to the detriment of the country and to the detriment of people where the taxpayers have to get their wallet out and pay for it. And we're speaking truth to power in that regard. And the unions have overreached. They have too much power. Government has overreached. It has too much power. And these big bailout businesses have also had their snout in the trough for too long, and they need to get out of there and get back to the marketplace and have the marketplace decide whether they succeed or not whether they have the right lobbyists, not whether they have the right, congressman or woman in their pocket or whatever. That's the kind of country we need to get back to and get out of the business of special deals to the fullest extent possible.
And also, Sarah Palin is showing some signs of a run this week. Are you at all concerned up against her with name recognition? You mentioned name recognition briefly in your remarks today.
Yeah, I know I can't control what other people are going to do or not do. All I can control is my effort, and I know who I am and why I'm running and what our message is. I believe that's going to prevail. This is a country that's drowning in debt and deficit. It's a country that's got an economy that is in deep trouble, and I can fix it. And the reason I know that is because I've tackled these kinds of issues in Minnesota, in a tough state. But as to who else may run or not run, that's up to them. We'll see.
There's some new polling data out from Claris showing not only that you've got some work cut out for you in the Republican contest, but also that President Obama is looking very strong in certain states against any Republican general election nominee. Notably in North Carolina, a state that a lot of folks describe as a must-win for Republicans. I wonder if you can talk about the challenge that lies ahead beyond the primaries for the Republicans against a president who's going to have a 12-month advantage building an organization.
Well, as for me, these early polls don't mean anything because my name ID even amongst Republicans is low. I mean, only 15% of the Republicans in the country even recognize my name. I think now nationally we have that up to like 50%. So when they ask people in these polls, would you vote for X or Pawlenty, half the people being asked don't even know who I am. So we have to first make sure that people introduce myself to voters and then get their support. And we're still some months away from being able to get that to the point where the polls even mean anything. So if the early polls meant anything, Rudy Giuliani would be president.
What about the larger question about the general election?
Yeah, and the suggestion that President Obama is invincible or extremely difficult to beat, I don't buy it all. Both pre-Bin Laden and now again post-Bin Laden, his numbers are sinking back to approval ratings and real numbers that show he's very vulnerable. And we got $4 gallon gas, we had crushing levels of unemployment, and we have an economy that's in terrible shape, and we got a federal government that's out of control. And in order to get a new and better direction, we're going to need a new and better president. And I think the American people are figuring that out. And you look at independent vote, for example, in key states like Florida, they're not going to elect President Obama at all. So I don't buy the premise that he's going to be difficult to beat.
We need one more question, guys.
Okay.
We good?
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.